Hello and welcome to Rally Point. This is our monthly series that brings veteran topics, programs, and veterans themselves front and center. My name is Bill Butler. I'm the Chief of Staff here at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus, Ohio. On the last Monday in May, we honor those who died while serving our country, Memorial Day. And at the National Veterans Memorial and Museum, we honor those men and women every day, but wanted to focus this month's rally point on the topic, raising the voices of our Gold Star families. We think you'll find this discussion educational and also inspiring. And then for those of you who are not familiar with the term Gold Star spouse or Gold Star mom or family, these are families who've lost a loved one in service to our country. They're a group that we hold in such high regard here at the museum. So if you're watching us live right now, if you could please comment in the Facebook chat and just let us know the city, state, and or country that you're tuning in from. Before we head into the conversation, let's hear from our Rally Point sponsor, the Central Ohio Ford dealers. Without their support, we would not be able to do programs like Rally Point.
Throughout our 120 years, Ford has supported our nation's armed forces and honored their selfless service to our country. The Central Ohio Ford dealers are proud to continue this tradition by investing in the work of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus. Together, we want to share the veterans' heroic stories and introduce a grateful nation to the faces behind our forces. Please join us monthly to hear inspiring educational stories from our veterans who have gone above and beyond their call to defend freedom around the world. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum and your Central Ohio Ford dealers. Together, we will never forget.
Today, I'm joined by Krista Simpson Anderson, the wife of retired Master Sergeant Gus Anderson, and the Gold Star spouse of Green Beret Staff Sergeant Michael Simpson. Krista is also the co-founder of the organization, the Unquiet Professional. She's advised the Chief of Staff of the Army and the Secretary of Defense on survivor and casualty reform. She is also a liaison to surviving families and a board member for the Green Beret Foundation. Welcome, Krista. We're so grateful that you've joined us today. If you could please tell us just a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think you summed it up, but I am a wife and a mom of two boys. Our boys, Michael is 13 and Gabriel is 11. Aspiring service members. One of them wants to go into the Navy and the other one Army. Breaking the Army legacy of the family, Gabriel is, but we'll see. I'm still working on him, but I am also an advocate for military families, I think, in general. And it's hard for me to take no for an answer if I know that there's a way to reform something. So I take great pleasure in working side by side with either the Department of Defense or for-profit organizations. I sit on the Caliber Home Loans Military Spouse Council, and we get to create legacy programs to provide our surviving families and first responder surviving families with some different benefits. And then also the USAA advisory panel, which is a great gift for me to serve on as well. So
Krista, can you tell us about Michael?
Oh, yeah. Mike was definitely a godly, witty, funny. I mean, he could bring light to any moment at all. Today we were actually in Arlington National Cemetery with one of his best friends, who was the best man at our wedding, and he just shared the first time they were in Iraq and they got shot at. And Mike evidently started to run in circles and said, well, they can't hit a moving target. I mean, even in the heaviest of times, right? He could bring some type of humor to the situation. And I think that everybody who knew him would be able to tell you the same thing and come up with some sort of hysterical story to tell you. I think his most, I would say, I know, because he said it and wrote it down, that his most prized possession was our family and his boys, Michael and Gabriel. but he was nicknamed the Unquiet Professional, which is why we chose to name our organization that, because he was so proud to be a Green Beret. Green Berets are known as quiet professionals, but he was so proud to follow in his brother and his father's footsteps that he would just tell everybody.
Well, he should be proud. I mean, that's a tremendous asset for our nation, the Green Berets. My father is actually served in Vietnam and is a special forces officer as well.
Wow.
So could you tell us just a little bit about the organization, the Unquiet Professional, why you started it and the mission that it has?
Absolutely. So the mission, kind of as said on our website, is to provide healthy and empowering opportunities for Gold Star and surviving families, veterans, and their families. So all military families, whether they're active, reserve, separated, retired, doesn't matter. And really to provide them healthy and empowering opportunities to heal from the wounds brought on by war. I think over the last 10 years, it has evolved, but initially, when we started the Unquiet Professional, it was really just in response to the outpouring of love and support that we received from organizations and our community. And so my girlfriend, Andrea Rinaldi, she co-founded the organization with me. At first, we said, let's have a fundraiser and donate to these organizations. And then she said, well, let's just start our own organization. And then you can kind of see where it goes. So fast and furious, about a month and a half after Mike was interred in Arlington National Cemetery was our first fundraiser. And so we're able to provide things like a recumbent bike for a veteran who's recovering from a stroke, flying family members bedside to be with their loved one, their service member, before they pass away, or flying them, when there's an injury and they will recover, but for them to be with them. I do a lot of casualty consultation, unfortunately, but I get to connect either with the casualty assistance officer or directly with the family to make sure that the family and the support staff are receiving the support that they need, and they are kind of, moving in the right direction and understanding what the benefits and entitlements are.
The Unquiet Professional, is that just for special operations
No.
families and soldiers, or any?
For everybody. Because Mike was in the Stryker Brigade before he was special forces, and then before that, he actually started his career in the Old Guard, and so he was part of President Reagan's internment. And I like to say he began his career there and kind of ended it there as well.
We've still got men and women deployed in harm's way all over the world, and many people don't realize that. And we still have troops in Iraq and Syria and operating in pretty dangerous environments and throughout Africa. So you had indicated that you still do that kind of support. How frequently does that happen, where some families military members injured or killed, and support from the Unquiet Professional is provided to them?
Well, lately, obviously less and less, but we have a lot of training accidents. And people don't think about that, right? I've heard a lot in terms of, the different types of support that's out there and how some of that has been pared back, or Department of Defense has, kind of switched gears a little bit. And some people, DOD doesn't say this, but, some people's perspective out there, like you said, is like, well, they don't need that as much because the war's over. Right. Well, the war is still fought, right? In my house every day. Right. And it's the same thing. I mean, our servicemen and women are training constantly. I just actually had this amazing opportunity. So on the year anniversary of Mike's accident, I got to attend a capability exercise at U.S. Army Special Operations Command. Okay. And it's fascinating, the stuff that they do. I did get to ride in a Chinook. It was pretty cool. Yeah. But just to see what they do and train day in and day out. And I think the greatest gift for me was they actually had a mass casualty I don't want to say presentation, but they created essentially a mass casualty for us to kind of witness. They were obviously acting, and it was fake blood, but it was just such a gift to be able to see the lengths that I know that they went to with my husband, in the field, and watch that kind of happen in front of me. And so I do a lot with retirees as well. The Army, actually, the new policy for the Army is as for retirees that they will, not may, that they will provide a casualty assistance officer for retirees' families if they pass away after retirement.
Right.
And so that person is kind of, the CAO is always to navigate kind of the bureaucracy, if you will, of the military system and the Army system. And so they'll help to stop the pension and disability and all of that, and file for any benefits that they have. So I do a lot more, I think, with retirees.
And then, just to your point about the training accidents, the past 2 weeks, each week, there have been 2 helicopter accidents that resulted in fatalities.
9. 9 on Fort Campbell.
And then 3 up in Alaska last week. So, yeah, it happens, sadly, all too often.
A lot of, I think, what I've seen, and if I may say, part of the gap, and we work with special, with USASOC as well, U.S. Army Special Operations Command, and just talk about the gaps in the system, what they see their gaps are, what we see ours, are from a benevolent organization standpoint, and the spouse support. So we had a spouse that passed, many, of course, over the years, but a spouse that passed away, and what the support is for that family in that time. And there really isn't a standard operating procedure on how to navigate that from the command and the Casualty Assistance Center's perspective. They do certain things, but we were able to actually help the family, partnering actually with Special Forces Charitable Trust to help a family that lost the military spouse.
So not the military member, but the military member's spouse.
Right.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
It's great to be able to provide that kind of support. I can't imagine having to endure that as a family member.
You plan as a family, right?
Right.
As a service member, there's something.
You think, yes,
something's going to happen to you, right?
Yeah, you think it's going to happen to you in the event, because what we do is dangerous with deployments and combat operations. So the possibility is there, the likelihood. I certainly hope it's not, and you don't think that it could happen to your spouse. So
right. And that's something that I do a lot and love to educate on, is planning for the unexpected. And it's really not just death, right? It's the water pipe burst, where your, shut off valve is to shut off the water main. And, and we do talk about wills and powers of attorney and family planning, aspects of that. And I tell spouses all the time, would you just drop off your kids and just never pick them back up again? Some of them are like, I sometimes want to.
I want to, yeah.
But if you're in an accident, that might actually happen. And do you have it on paper somewhere? Who would care for your children and who they need to call? And so, yeah.
Yeah, the family care plan is so important. So May 1st, it was the 10-year anniversary of Mike's death. So can you just describe a little bit about what you and the boys and your family are doing to honor and remember him this year?
Yeah, so went to church together in the morning, and then headed over to Arlington National Cemetery. He's in Section 60, plot 10380. And with actually one of his friends and his friend's family. And it was really special because I heard our 13-year-old Michael talking to him about, I heard, Daddy was a Bengals fan because of you, and they talked about that a lot. But Jerry, actually, the last time he saw the boys and was in Arlington, was at the funeral. And so it was so special for all of us to be together.
So for those of us, or I'm sorry, for those of you watching us live, if you could please share in the chat the name of the service member you will be honoring and remembering this Memorial Day. I'm going to be honoring Staff Sergeant Alphonse Harness, who was killed in a training accident at the Joint Readiness Training Center back in 1894 when I was a brand new captain in the Army.
Wow.
So sadly, we know too many guys and women who were killed in combat and killed in the line of duty training. I learned that every year the Unquiet Professional does a virtual memorial mile in honor of a fallen service member.
Yeah.
So if you just share with us who you're going to honor this year and how we can get our audience involved.
So I decided, at first I thought it was a little selfish, but then I was pushed to understand that, this is why we started the organization, to honor Mike. So this year on the 10-year anniversary, he is the center of attention. So we're honoring him. And there's a registration on our website, the unquietprofessional.org, under Virtual Memorial Mile. And then there's also, if you click on the different logos, Military Families Magazine, We Are the Mighty, all of the different logos that are there are different articles that have been written kind of over time about Mike, about the organization, and about our family and the work that we do. And so there's the registration there. And then also Red 70s has created a t-shirt that can be purchased as well.
For our military and veteran audience, they know the meaning behind Memorial Day, and a lot of Americans don't, because it gets lost in the end of school year. It gets lost in the beginning of summer. It gets lost in barbecues and that sort of thing. And so, knowing that most of our listeners and viewers are veterans or in the military, what would you share that maybe we haven't thought about from the perspective of Memorial Day as a Gold Star spouse?
I often say that it's my favorite weekend of the year, and I know that sounds a little strange. I'm a firm believer that it's God's plan, not ours, and so I can't go back and change anything, right? Mike served and sacrificed and died the way that he was meant to. And it's a great honor. It's always bittersweet, right? I wish he was here, but I'm so proud of his sacrifice. And so I think that, the weekend, I want people to have fun, right? I want people to enjoy their family. I want them to bring each other together and just and enjoy each other. And pause for a moment and remember all those that have sacrificed their lives in service to our nation, because I get more phone calls and emails and text messages remembering Mike and pictures and all of that. And so never be afraid. And I would say, no matter how long it's been, if you haven't been in contact with the family that maybe their service member that passed, send them a message. Whether it's, social media is so easy today. You can send a Facebook message to them to say, I served with your person, or your husband, or your father, or your wife, or, sister, brother. Reach out and just, I think, pause and remember. Today it's an all volunteer force, and all sacrifice is worthy to honor, of course. But when we think of, the men and women who walk into that recruiter's office and understand the risk of the duty that's ahead of them, right. I think it's pretty courageous.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
I've read where they say people die 3 times. They die when their heart stops beating. They die when they're placed into the ground or cremated, and then they die the last time their name is uttered. And from guys and gals I served with, they're always remembering their brothers and sisters who were killed or died. And I think that's, as you summed it up, that's a great way to commemorate and remember and also celebrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for sharing that. Working in this space for the last 4 years, there's 45,000 different veteran service organizations. And, a lot of those focus on supporting Gold Star families and survivors and surviving family members. Are there any that are especially supportive for you and your two boys the last 10 years?
My gosh, I have a list, So I would say, in the immediate wake, of course, the Warrior Care Program, which used to be called the Care Coalition under U.S. Special Operations Command, they have, it's not a nonprofit, but they have advocates everywhere at each unit. And they helped coordinate a lot of things for us. And then they connect with benevolent organizations to support. So like the Green Beret Foundation, the reason why I serve with them today is because they actually flew Mike's siblings to Germany. So Mike was injured, and then they were able to medevac him to Landstuhl. Yeah. And when they did that, they knew that he wasn't going to live. And that's something I think people should know, because they could have just let him die in Afghanistan. Right. But they moved him to Germany so that we could be with him. Mm-hmm. But they flew Mike's siblings bedside to Germany and then to Dover and back home. And then Special Operations Warriors Foundation covers tutoring for my kids, and we'll cover college, whatever's not covered by the VA, all of their FRI scholarship benefits. The USO used to carry my kids through the airport. They would meet me at the curb and take the car seats out for me. Oh my God, they'd say, just text us when you're coming to travel. And they would really, never mind Dover, right? If you've ever been to Dover for a dignified transfer, it is just absolutely incredible. And the USO has presence there. And then Legacies Alive is an organization that brings families together in different places all around the country. Okay. And it's just kind of wonderful to be together. Angels of America's Fallen provides mentor or coach-led activities for the boys every year. And then, of course, Folded Flag Foundation and Folds of Honor is K through 12 private school scholarships, as well as higher education. And then our new favorite is Force Blue Team. And it is a team of combat diver veterans who do ocean conservation. Like saving sea turtles and, planting coral. And so they do a ocean conservation school for Gold Star kids. And it's just amazing to watch my kids just come alive.
I would imagine it's an incredible opportunity for them. Yeah. That sounds great. Well, thanks for sharing those organizations that you have found valuable. Are there any ways that people who might be watching can support Children of the Fallen?
I think what I always tell people when they want to support any nonprofit organization is find something that you're passionate about. If it's running, Wear Blue Run to Remember is an incredible organization, right? And of course, telling the stories. Your organization is amazing, and honoring, veterans and then those who have gone before us. But so whatever you're passionate about, throw in a Google search. Right. I would say, because I think that there is something really special about contributing to an organization that provides something that you're interested in.
Well, as you said, we're a story sharing museum. Yeah. We like to share the veteran experience with America, and we do that by hosting organizations, individuals, veterans, family members to share their story. And so, Krista, thanks for telling us about Mike and who he was and what he meant to the people who loved him and the people that he loved. Are there any other stories that you want to share today?
if you don't mind, say the names of the service members we've honored the past few years for our virtual Memorial Mile. Well, the first year, Tessa Robinson actually sent out a name and a story for every registrant. She sent out 450 stories, different stories. She works with We Are the Mighty now, and she created our 6-part series as well. She's the founder of Humans on the Home Front. And I just couldn't keep up with that. And I also wanted the permission from the families. And that was really important to me, to be able to provide opportunities for them to tell the stories, right? On a podcast, a magazine article, and then also a virtual article. So, the first year that I took it over, we honored Sergeant First Class James Grissom, Sergeant Jay Strickland, Staff Sergeant Liam Nevins, and Staff Sergeant Tim McGill. Tim was actually a friend of Mike's. And the second year was Major Philip Ombard, Specialist John Pelham. Family is amazing. All of these families are amazing. And Navy SEAL Patrick Feeks. And then last year was Master Sergeant Gregory Trent and Staff Sergeant Eduardo Laredo. And so I would just ask that, people look them up and read their stories and listen to their podcasts.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you, Krista. Just about some future events and programs here at the museum. We've got our regular Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and yoga classes throughout the week. We offer free Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu 7 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then we also offer free yoga classes every Thursday evening and Sunday morning. You learn about those on our website under the events and programs and our resilience and wellness drop-down menu. As you would imagine, Memorial Day weekend is very busy for us, and we've got a whole host of events. And it starts off on the 27th of May with our CrossFit Hero workout in conjunction with several of the CrossFit gyms in and around Columbus, Ohio. We're going to do the Murph workout.
You feel the sacrifice when you do that workout.
Yeah, you definitely feel the sacrifice. So that'll be a great program. We've got 3 heats, and we've got support from Rogue here in Columbus. So we're looking forward to that. And then later that morning, we'll have the National Ride for Freedom. So A.D. Farrow's the oldest Harley-Davidson dealership in the United States, and they're going to ride from Sunbury, Ohio, which is about 30 minutes north of Columbus, down to the museum. Should be a couple hundred riders, so that'll be a nice way to finish off Saturday. And then Sunday, we've got our 5K run, walk, ruck, and roll. So that'll be
fun.
Here at the museum. And if you're interested in running, walking, rucking, or rolling, you can join the group here. And we expect to have about 750 or 1,000 participants for that. And then that evening at 8 o'clock, we've got our 3rd annual Gold Star Family Candlelight Vigil. And that'll be a very somber but respectful event for those Gold Star families who come in to participate. And then Monday morning, May 29th at 10 a.m., up on our rooftop, we'll have our Memorial Day ceremony. So it should be a great weekend and a lot of opportunities for people to connect and share stories about loved ones that they've lost. So without any further ado, that concludes our rally point for this year. Krista, thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
And thanks for sharing Mike's story.
Thank you.
Throughout our 120 years, Ford has supported our nation's armed forces and honored their selfless service to our country. The Central Ohio Ford dealers are proud to continue this tradition by investing in the work of the National Veterans Memorial and Museum in Columbus. Together, we want to share the veterans' heroic stories and introduce a grateful nation to the faces behind our forces. Please join us monthly to hear inspiring educational stories from our veterans who have gone above and beyond their call to defend freedom around the world. The National Veterans Memorial and Museum and your Central Ohio Ford dealers. Together, we will never forget.